Congratulations. You're in your 70s and you're living and you're healthy and you're married. So what could possibly go wrong? Let me count the ways. What do you mean? Well, an awful lot of people I know, despite being me, a guy that's been planning his whole life, but an awful lot of people I know don't plan ahead. Let me translate that with a very simple story. People have a bad habit of getting older, sicker, and in some cases even broker. So how do you handle that in advance? Number one, prepare ahead. Again, simplify that for you. Plan ahead means having documents in place. For instance, in Texas, if you own a vehicle by yourself and you're married, there's an heirship form. Get the right form so that you can list out what the vehicle is, who owns it, who you'd like to inherit it, hopefully your spouse, and execute that form and bring it over to your friendly local license plate place, which is part of the government, in this case, Collin County. And what happens if you don't do that? Well, then you have to get something called an heirship document prepared. You might even have to go through probate. You might have to go through a lot more documentation. So make it easier on your spouse, knowing that full well someday one of you is going to get promoted and go to heaven before the other one. What's another ginormous mistake people make? Just the other day, we had a client die, and his beneficiary, who's becoming a client, couldn't find the will. So another big mistake people make, in addition to not preparing, is not letting anybody know where the documents are. So in our household, we have a purple file folder that has our documents in it. What's in that? Well, it has a will, a trust, powers of attorney. One's a durable power of attorney, in case one of us loses their marbles. Whoosh, the other one can take their place. Medical directive in terms of, do not plug me in. So those are just brief examples of what you can do in advance and knowing where those are. I think find a list of accounts and print it out and give it to your wife or husband or both. Also your passcodes. It'd be a great idea to know how to turn on your telephone, how to turn on your computer. What are some of the disasters that people have? New husband or wife were fantastic people. One of them predeceased the other. And the person who survived discovered they had no idea, nor did anybody else, how to get in the computers that we use for their business. No access whatsoever. Now, eventually they did hire somebody to go ahead and hack their system and get in there. But gee willikers, have documentation and systems so that you and your survivors actually have access to the information. Years ago, my darling wife said to me, what happens to you if you have a stroke? Well, who am I supposed to call? I made her a list of people with phone numbers to whom to call. And another thing we ran into the other day is sometimes your automatic credit card payments that go to pay your utilities or your internet or your television or your gas, electric, not to mention your mortgage, for whatever reason, don't go through. I'm not sure why that happens, but periodically, I'm here to tell you it happens. So both of you having access to the email systems that give you a heads up saying, hey, you forgot to pay this or that. It is handy having folders that actually document what is and is not true so that you can present that to folks, letting them know that honest to goodness, you've actually paid those. Now, talking rationally is not really appealing emotionally. Imagine this. Your area is flooded where you can't get out of your house. You're kind of stuck there. You have a limited supply of food, limited period of time that you can be doing what you're doing. What do you do? Having an emergency plan is a really good idea. What do most people do? Hope and pray it never happens to them. It's that simple. So 1, get your documentation in place in advance. 2, make listings of what is and is not true in terms of your accounts. 3, if you'd like to have your husband or spouse have a lot less trouble transitioning once you're not already here, find out what form and forms you need. The other day when Susie was singing, 2 ladies who were widows said to her, we went to the DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles, and discovered there were some forms that we needed to go inherit our husband's vehicles. And one of them was a car collector, so it was a little more complicated than for most folks. So having those in place, executed, on file, will save your wife or husband a great deal of trouble when it comes to transition. So what happens if you don't have any of those? Well, you go through probate. If you have a sizable estate, it gets kind of complicated. If you don't have a will, it gets really complicated because the state already has decided who's going to inherit what. So what do you do instead? If worse comes to worse and we're not attorneys, So if worse comes to worse, you can write out in advance by hand who you are, you're of sound mind, who you'd like to get your stock. It's that simple. What if you don't have that? It costs a lot more money and a lot more trouble. And attorneys just love it when people die intestate. Intestate meaning don't have a will or documents or know what the documents are. In addition to that, once you have accumulated some money, whoever survives you will discover that you have a whole bunch of relatives who you forgot to recognize, and they will present themselves. Make no mistake about that. I had a cousin who was about my age who died about 2 years ago, and no one has been able to find his will. His parents both are deceased, and when he died, I think there were 4 cousins left. Now there are 2 or 3 cousins left. Actually, there used to be 5, now there are 3. And we were contacted by an attorney in New York saying, oh, by the way, would you like us to represent you? We'll do the research. Okay. So did the research, got the documents together, sent it off to the attorney. And in a couple of years, that may or may not reach fruition. I'm not worried about it one way or another. But having documentation, your birth certificate, records of who you are, who your parents are, and the like, very handy thing to have. We have an election coming up in November. Those of us who have been registered to vote for a long period of time, fantastic. Those of you who have changed names and the like might look into how your state actually regulates or has legislated that particular need to have a voter ID. In Texas, you have a voter ID. Driver's license seems to work just fine, at least in Collin County, which is just north of Dallas County. So one biggest problem you can have, and I do mean the biggest problem you can have, is not having your ducks in a row and not having that documentation ready. And that next video is going to be the 13 biggest estate planning mistakes people make. So take a look at that, and a link above will get you where you're going and help you have fun and still have money. And with any kind of luck, help you avoid being old, sick, and broke. This is John Checki, CPA, CFP, which is a certified public accountant, certified financial planner, and co-founder of Checki Financial, wishing you a happy, healthy, and glorious